Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin today a new Masechta Chagigah, which according to most opinions is also the last Masechta of the whole Seder Mayid. And Seder Mayid finishes with this Masechta that talks about the halachas in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when Yidden would be Oile Regel 3 times a year to the Beis HaMikdash, the Karbanos they have to bring, and the other halachas that apply to this. The name of the Masechta is Chagigah, which refers to the Karban Chagigah that was brought in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Even though there are other Karbanos, there's a Karban Oila that's also brought, there's a Karban Shlomim, which is called the Chagigah that's brought. The name of the Masechta is Chagigah, as we'll see in the continuation here in the Mishnah, that according to Beis Hillel, the Karban Chagigah is, so to speak, more important. You have to invest in it more than the Karban Oila. So this is the name of the Masechta. Let's begin. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah, HaKoil Chayovin B'Ri'iyah. Everybody is obligated to come and appear in the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year in the Yom Tov. So Rashi here says it's talking about this mitzvah of Yeroya Kol Zechorcha, that you have to come and be there. Everybody is obligated 3 times a year to come. Taisus over here says, when it says the term HaKoil Chayavim B'Ri'iyah, it doesn't mean only the fact that you come and appear, but it also refers to the Karban Oilas Ri'iyah that you bring along with it. So it's both, the Karban and the coming. So everybody's obligated. Chutz, mecheresh, shaita, v'katan. Besides a person that's a deaf mute, we'll see in the Gemara actually what the meaning of cheresh is. A shaita, a person that doesn't have his mind with him, and katan, a child under bar mitzvah. And v'tumtum, a person that does not have a sign of whether he's a male or female, v'adroigenis, or a person that has both a sign of being a male and a female, and v'noshim, v'avodim she'ena mishachrarim, women, or a eved, which refers to a eved kanani, that has not been freed, and a chiger, a person that's lame, v'asuma, and a person that's blind, v'achayla, a person that's sick, v'hazakin, a person that's old, and a person that can't go up with his feet, meaning, as Rashi says, he can't walk from Yerushalayim to the Azara. We'll see in the Gemara will explain the source of all of these different cases of all these different kinds of people that are potter. Says the Mishnah, Eizehu cotton, who is considered to be a cotton that's not chayiv in the mitzvah of Ri'iyah. Kol she'eni yachal la'aleis beragloi. Kol she'eni yachal lirkoi v'aksei foishal aviv. That is, someone that can't ride on the shoulders of his father. His father can't bring him to the Beis HaMikdash. So Rashi explains, when we talk here about a cotton, and we say that he can't ride on the shoulders of his father, right? So that means that if he could, his father is able to take him on his shoulders, then he's obligated to come. So obviously, that does not mean that he's obligated to come min ha-Torah. Min ha-Torah, there's no mitzvah for a cotton which has no das. However, for this cotton, at the age that his father could bring him on his shoulders, so then the Chachamim placed on the father and the mother the mitzvah of chinuch to be mechanech them. There's a chiddush here in this Rashi. This is a famous Rashi, because in this Rashi, Ezel Cotton, he says that the mitzvah of chinuch lies upon the father and upon the mother. In most places it actually says that the mitzvah of chinuch is only on the father. But here Rashi says both, the father and the mother. Okay, so this is the opinion of Beis Hillel. Again, let's read this again. Kol sheni yachal lirkav akseifa shalale v'lalois miYerushalayim larabayis, and to carry him like that from Yerushalayim to the Harabayis. This is Divrei Beis Shammai. This is Beis Shammai's opinion. Beis Hillel oimrim, Beis Hillel say, Kol sheni yachal lechais biyadai shalaviv, as long as this child cannot hold on his father's hand. V'lalois miYerushalayim laharabayis, and to go up from Yerushalayim to walk together with his father to the Harabayis. So if you can't do that, walking, holding his father's hand, so then the mitzvah of chinuch will not apply yet. Shenema, the pasuk says, shalish regalim. The yamim tovim are referred to as regalim. So from here we learn that chinuch begins when the child is able to walk with his own feet, holding his father's hand. Again, regalim, the word regalim. Regalim means to walk with your feet. It's not, as I said, we're talking here about the mitzvah of chinuch midrabanan. So it's not that we're bringing this pasuk as a source for this mitzvah. There's no mitzvah min ha-Torah for chinuch, but the Chachamim made their decision of when to apply the beginning of the age of chinuch for this mitzvah based on the language of the pasuk. That it says here the term regalim. So when a child can walk holding his father's hand, then he's going to be chayiv. Beis Shammai say, the carbon, so as I mentioned, when you come to the Beis HaMikdash, Oile Regel, there are two karbanos that have to be brought. The emphasis is the third carbon that also has to be brought in connection to every Yom Tov. We'll see later. Shalmei Simcha, a carbon that's brought to eat the meat for the Simcha of the Yom Tov. But here we're speaking about the two karbanos. One is a Oila. This carbon Oila is brought and is totally burnt on the Mizbeach, like every carbon Oila. And then there's a carbon Shlomim. Carbon Shlomim, part of it is burnt on the Mizbeach, part of it the Kayan eats, and part of it the owner eats. So Beis Shammai says, the carbon that you bring, that's the Oila, that comes together with the fact that you're coming to appear in the Beis HaMikdash, shtei kesef. So you should invest in that more. You should invest in that 2 silver coins, that it should be a fat animal. Chagigah, the carbon Chagigah that you bring, that's not totally burnt in the Mizbeach, part of it goes to the Kainim and the Bailim, the owner, ma. So for that is half. You invest in it only 1 ma of kesef for this carbon. Siloin Midim Beisilo say the reverse. Hariyeh ma kesef. The carbon oilas riyeh that you bring, that should be only 1 ma. That could be only 1 ma kesef. Chagigah shtei kesef. The carbon chagigah, which is going to be part for the mizbeach and part for you and part for the kainim, that should be 2 silver coins. The Gemara will explain everything here in this Mishnah, all the machlekes and the 2 arguments between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel and all the details we had in the Mishnah. Zok the Gemara, we said in the Mishnah that hakoil, that everybody's chayiv b'diyah, right? So lasuye mai, what does this hakoil come to add? And for the Gemara, lasuye, this comes to add misha chetziyah eved v'chetziyah ben chayrin. When you have a slave that was partially freed and partially he's still a slave, that he is also obligated in the mitzvah to be oile regel. So for example, if you had 2 brothers or partners that owned a slave and one of them freed him and one of them did not, so he's partially free, partially a slave. So the Mishnah is saying that he's also obligated to come, even though later in the Mishnah it said that avodim she'eino mishuchradim, however that's not free, does not have the mitzvah, but if he's half freed, he's already obligated. But now according to Ravina's opinion that says, and we're going to learn about this later in the Gemara, that misha chetzi eved v'chetzi ben chayrin, that a person that's half slave and half free, potter min eriyeh, that he is also potter from coming to the Beis HaMikdash. Ravina learns it out from the extra words of the Mishnah, because it doesn't just say in the Mishnah that avodim are potter. It says avodim she'eino mishuchradim. So Ravina says, why does it have to add those words she'eino mishuchradim? Obviously, if it says avodim, you know he's a slave and he's not freed. So Ravina says, from there you learn that even if he's partially freed, but he's not fully freed, he's still going to be potter. So if so, according to his opinion, hakoil lasuye mai, the word hakoil in the Mishnah, what does it come to add? Answers the Gemara, lasuye chiger b'yom rishon, a person that was a chiger, he's lame on the first day, v'nispashet b'yom sheni, and then on the second day of the Yom Tov, he got healed, and he's able to walk like a regular person. So even though on the first day of Yom Tov he was not obligated to come to the Beis HaMikdash, he's not obligated to bring the carbon oilas riyeh, but now that on the second day that he's nispashet, that he's healed, so now he has the mitzvah to come and to bring the carbon. Frag the Gemara, so this pshat as well doesn't fit according to everybody. This is a good pshat, Laman Omar, according to the opinion that says, Kulon tashlumin ze lo ze, that all of the days of the Yom Tov, so one could make up for the other day. So we'll see later in the Gemara, this is on Daf Tes, where it brings a big machlekes, negate to the fact that the karbanis that you have to bring on the Yom Tov, so the first opportunity to bring it is on the first day of the Yom Tov. If you didn't bring it on the first day, you can be mashlemit, you can make up for that the rest of the days of the Yom Tov. So the argument is, how do we understand it? Does it mean that really the obligation is only the first day, and all the rest of the days are to make up for the first day? Or no, the obligation is really every single day of the Yom Tov. If you didn't bring it the first day, so you bring it the second day. I mean, you should bring it as early as you can. But really the obligation is there on every single day of the Yom Tov. So the Gemara now says, the opinion that says, Kulan tashlumin zeh, that the obligation is really on every day of the Yom Tov, and if I didn't bring it the first, I bring it the second. If I don't bring it the second, I bring it the third. And every day I'm making up for the chiyuv that's on every single day of the Yom Tov. So then I could understand that a person that was lame on the first day of Yom Tov, and then on the first day he was potter, and then the second day of Yom Tov he got healed. So today he has the obligation to come and to bring his carbon oilas riyeh. So that's what hakoil would mean to include such an individual. But there's another opinion that says that the obligation is really only the first day, and all the rest of the days are coming to make up for you not fulfilling that obligation on the first day. but it's only the first day that's the real chiyuv. If so, hakoil asuye mai. What would hakoil come to add? It can't come to add this individual that was lame on the first day and then got healed the other days. If he was lame the first day, he was potter the first day. According to this opinion, once you potter the first day, there's nothing to make up any of the rest of the days. And for the Gemara, third pshat, la suye summa bachas meina. This comes to include a person that's blind with one of his eyes. And this is not following the opinion of this Tana here that says that Tanya we learned in Abraisa Yechanan ben Dahavoy Oimer Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Yechanan ben Dahavoy said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda that Suma Bachas Me'enov Potem Menariya. Person that's blind with one eye is exempt from coming to the Beis HaMikdash and bringing the carbon oilers Riyah. Shanama the Pasuk says Yireh Yeroah. Right, so it says in the Pasuk. So it says Shalosh Pamim Bashana Yeroah Kol Zechorcha. So we read it Yireh Yeroah, that you have to see and the Eibishter sees you when you come, which means Kederech Shabal Lirois, just like you come to see Kach Ba Lirois. So the same way you also have to be seen. What does this mean? So Rashi here says that just like the Eibishter comes to see you and the Eibishter sees you with two eyes, so too when you come to the Beis HaMikdash, you have to come, you're obligated to come if you have two eyes that you have full vision to be able to see. Ma lirois b'shtei einov, af leira'os b'shtei einov. Just like you see with two eyes, so too you're seen with the two eyes of the Eibishter. Right? Okay, so that's the pshat according to Rabbi Yehuda that says that a person that's blind with one eye is potter from the mitzvah. So therefore our Mishnah disagrees with this, and our Mishnah says hakoil, that everybody's chayiv to come to the Beis HaMikdash, including a person that's blind with one eye.
But by this one it says the lake.
Yeah.
Doesn't say the lake.
Interesting, right? Even though later we say that there's because over there were Amiroim that argued about this. Over here there's another Tana that argues with the Tana of our Mishnah. So therefore we're saying the Tana of our Mishnah is not like the Tana of this Braisa. Now the Gemara goes back to the first answer that it brought. The Gemara says as follows: or if you want, we can go back to the first answer that the Mishnah Koil is coming to include a chatzi eved, v'chatzi ben chayr, and a half eved and half free. We're going back to the first answer. We had a question. Ravina clearly said that a person that's half eved and half free, he is going to be potter from coming to the Beis HaMikdash. Says the Gemara, loy kashya. What Ravina said will not be a contradiction to coming and saying that hakoil includes this individual as well. Why not? Kan kemishna rishayna, kan kemishna achrayna. According to the Mishnah Rishayna, the way the Mishnah was in the beginning, as the Gemara will now explain, so Ravina would say that a chatzi eved and chatzi ben chayrin is potter. But according to the Mishnah Achrayna, the way the Mishnah was afterwards, Chatzi Ev and Chatzi Ben Chayrin will be Chayiv even according to Ravina. What's the source of this inyan? Mishnah Rishayna, Mishnah Achrayna, there was an opinion first, and then the opinion was retracted and it was changed. So the Gemara brings a source for this. The Tanan, so we learned in the Mishnah, it says, Misha Chatzi Eved v'Chatzi Ben Chayrin, a person that's half Eved and half free, Eved is Rabbi Yemechot, so one day he serves his master as a slave, Vesatzma Yemechot, and for one day he's free. Divrei Beis Hillel, that's Beis Hillel's opinion. Amrulem Beis Shammai, so Beis Shammai said to Beis Hillel, Tikantem es Rabbi. So this setup works good for his master, that he works for his master one day, but ves atzmai lo tikantem. But for himself, you did not make matters good for him. You did not fix it. It's not okay for the person himself. Why not? Lisa shivchayna yachol. So this person that's half free and half a slave, so who's he marrying? He can't marry a shivcha. That's a shivcha kananis, because he's already half free. Once he gets freed, he's already a full yid. So he's half of him is a full yid. He can't marry a shivcha kananis. Bas chayrin in a yachol, he can't marry a regular yid bas chayrin because he's still a half a slave. Li batul, not to say that an individual like this should just not get married whatsoever. That's not an option. The world is created for the purpose to give birth to children. The world is not created to remain toyu, to remain desolate and nothingness. The world is created to be settled. So therefore we must give them the opportunity to get married. It's interesting, Taisus points out over here why the Gemara brings this pasuk of loy toyu bara l'sheves yitzara. and not the pasuk that it says regarding the mitzvah, which is Peru Uruvu. So Taisus gives two pshatim. Either Taisus says that this pasuk of Lo Toyu Bra L'Sheves Yitzara is even a bigger mitzvah than Peru Uruvu. It expresses what the concept of this mitzvah is, to settle the world, and therefore the Gemara is bringing dafka this pasuk. Or Taisus says that this pasuk Lo Toyu Bra L'Sheves Yitzara applies not only to his half, which is already a yid, but it also applies to the half of the person that's not a yid yet. Because that's a mitzvah that's not only for Yidden, it's a mitzvah for everybody to settle the world and to have children. So therefore it's not an option to keep this person, Beis Shammai is saying, in a situation where he can't get married to anybody. Ella says Beis Shammai, mipnei tikkun ha'olam, in order to be misaken, to rectify this situation here, what do? Kaifen es rabbi v'oisai ben chayrin. We have to force his master, and he frees him. Kaisav lo shtar al chatzi domov, he writes him a shtar to free him for half of the money that he owes him to be freed for this kid, to give him the opportunity to get married. So this is what it says in the Mishnah. There was an argument here between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So originally, Beis Hillel held that no, we don't force the master to free him. And he remains in this condition, working for himself a day and working for his master for a day. This is what's called Mishnah Rishayna. That was the original opinion of Beis Hillel. And then the Chazru Beis Hillel lahayres kedivr Beis Shammai. Then Beis Hillel retracted from their opinion, and they paskin like Beis Shammai says that we'd have to force the master to free this person to be able to get married. So what's the connection to the Gemara before? So Rashi explains in the bottom of the Yamud that in the Mishnah Rishayna, where Beis Hillel held that we don't force the master to free him, so this person is half slave, and we don't force his master. So therefore, because of that half slavery, he's not obligated in mitzvahs. He's not obligated in this mitzvah to come, and the mitzvah of Riyah, to come to the Beis HaMikdash. And that's what Ravina said. Ravina said, a chatzi evet chatzi ben chayrin would be potter. But then the Mishnah Achrayna is when Beis Hillel retracted from their opinion, and they said that we do force the master to free him. So even before the master actually freed him, he's already considered to be like a free person, because it's just a matter of time. The master must free him. And therefore, we say that our Mishnah is marbe hakoil, including this chatzi evet chatzi ben chayrin, that his master must free him, that he will already be chayiv in the mitzvah of Re'iyah. That's the Mishnah Achrayna, after Beis Hillel retracted their opinion. Going back to the Mishnah, it said chutz micheres shaita v'katan chulu, that excluding a cheres shaita v'katan are absolved from the mitzvah. Talk to Gemara, katani, so it says in the Mishnah over here, cheresh, a person that's deaf or deaf mute, as we'll see, dumye, the shaita v'katan. It's similar to a shaita and a katan. Ma shaita v'katan de la b'nei deya. What's unique about a shaita and a katan is the fact that they both don't have das, they both don't have the proper understanding. Av cheresh, same thing is also with a person that's a cheresh, the lav bar deyahu, that he also does not have proper understanding. As Rashi here says, that Chazal kimluhu, the Chazal know this fact that a person that's deaf mute does not have proper das, like it is with a cheresh and a katan, like it is with a shaita and a katan, that is. And the Kamash Malam, what our Tana here is telling us, this halacha regarding being oile regel, kiditnan, similar to what we said in a different Mishnah. Cheresh shedibru chachamim b'chol makim. The term cheresh that chachamim use in all places. What does this mean? It's a person that doesn't hear, he's deaf, he's mute. But okay, so therefore that's the pshat in our Mishnah as well. A cheresh is a person that is deaf, mute, and therefore he's similar to a shaita and a katan. Says the Gemara, but person that can talk but he just can't hear, or he can hear but he can't talk, chayiv, he will be obligated in the mitzvah to be oile regel. He's not like a shaita and a katan. Tanina la de Tana Rabbanon, so this is the same. What it says in our Mishnah is it proves, or it's the same to this that we learned in the Braisa as well. So what does it say? A person that can talk and can't hear. Zehu cheresh. This person is called, he's deaf. Shemei ve'ene medaber, a person that can hear but he can't talk. Zehu ilaim. This is a ilaim which is mute. Then the Braisa there says both of these it's like a regular normal person for all halachas. He's chayiv in all mitzvahs like a regular person. So we see clearly in this Braisa that unless a person is a deaf and mute, he's considered to be like a regular person. How do we know a person that can talk and can't hear? This is what's called a cheresh, and that shemei avein medaber zehu ilaim, and a person that can hear but can't talk, he's called an ilaim. Where do these terms come from? Where do we see? Because the pasuk says va'ani kecheresh loy eshma, and I'm like deaf and I can't hear. So we see a cheresh is a person that doesn't hear. Uki ilaim lo yiftach piv, or like a person that's mute that doesn't open his mouth. So it says this expression clearly in a pasuk in Tehillim. V'bayseime, or the Gemara brings the source of the term ilaim, or kida amri inshi. This is the source of this is like people say ishtakel milulei. Ilaim means that his words that he would usually be able to speak was taken away from him. Okay, so now the Gemara comes back over here to this Braisa and this explanation in the Mishnah, and the Gemara will actually retract what it says and change the pshat. So what did we say? Medaber v'ene shemeya, shemeya v'ene medaber. Whether he's only deaf or only mute, chayiv. He will be obligated in the mitzvah, and it said before that he's like a normal person, and therefore also in this mitzvah to be oile regel, he'll also be chayiv. So the Gemara brings it in a Braisa. It clearly says that that's not the din. V'atanya, whether in the Braisa, medaber v'ene shemeya, a person that can talk and he can't hear. Shemeya v'ene medaber, he can hear but he can't talk. Potter, he's potter from coming to be oile regel in the Beis HaMikdash. So how do we explain our Mishnah when our Mishnah said that only a cheresh, which is deaf and mute, is potter? So now the Gemara changes this. There's something missing in our Mishnah. This is how you have to learn in our Mishnah. Hakoil chayavin. Everybody's obligated in two mitzvahs, b're'iyeh u b'simcha, to come to the Beis HaMikdash and bring the carbon oilas re'iyeh, and simcha means to also come to the Beis HaMikdash and bring the carbon for the simcha, which is the carbon shlamim that you bring. So the Mishnah here is mentioning both, that everybody's chayiv in both of these. And then the Mishnah says, chutz micheresh hamedaber ve'ene shemeya, a person that's deaf, and shemeya ve'ene medaber, or a person that's mute, shepotem in a re'iyah. He's going to be potter from which carbon? From the carbon re'iyah, to bring that carbon oila. And then the Mishnah says, "Va'afal pisha potem in a re'iyah," even though he's potter to bring the carbon re'iyah, chayiv b'simcha. Nevertheless, he's still going to be chayiv to bring the carbon shlamim for the simcha. And then the Mishnah says, "Ve'es she'enu loy shemeh v'loy medaber," if he's deaf and mute, and v'shayta v'katan, and a shayta and a katan. So here we're talking about a real cheresh, which is deaf and mute, similar to a shayta and a katan. So he is potter af min simcha. He's potter of both, of the carbon oilas re'iyah and from the carbon the shlamim that's for simcha. Hayil upturim mikol a mitzvahs ha'amuris b'Torah, because this person is potter from all mitzvahs in the Torah. So the Gemara here just changed the pshat, and the Gemara was machadish that when it comes to the oilas re'iyah, so over there you're going to be potter if a person is either deaf or mute. But when it comes to the carbon shlamim that's brought for simcha, for that you're only going to be potter if the person is deaf and mute. Gemara brings a Braisa that says the same thing. Tanya nami hachi, this is exactly the way it says in another Braisa. Hakoil chayavim b're'iyah u b'simcha, everyone's obligated in both re'iyah and simcha. Chutz b'cheresh ha-medaber v'ene shemeya, shemeya v'ene medaber, excluding a person which is deaf or mute. Shepturim in re'iyah, which is carbon from the potter from the carbon re'iyah. And then the Braisa concludes, v'aval pisha potter min re'iyah, even though he's potter from re'iyah, chayiv b'simcha, he's still chayiv in the simcha to bring the carbon shlamim for the simcha. But ve'es she'enu loy shemeya v'loy medaber, a person that cannot hear and he's both deaf and mute, and v'shayta v'katan p'turin af min simcha, they're potter from everything and from simcha as well. Hayil p'turin mikol mitzvahs ha'amuris b'Torah, since he's potter from all mitzvahs in the Torah. And the continuation of the Gemara will explain what's the source of this. Why are we making this kind of distinction? We'll bring the psukim as the source for this.